This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. I am here with the awesome and amazing Gene Marks from the Marks Group. How are you, my friend?
I am doing good, David. How are you?
Small business marketing guru, small business columnist, the penny pincher. You're everywhere, dude. You're everywhere.
You're taking me back now.
I know.
I haven't done the penny pinching stuff in a long time, actually.
In the Business Journal?
Yeah, I would love to get back to that, though. I had a great time writing that column.
Well, hopefully they're listening.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're listening. So let's go all the way back. Let's go back to how you came to all this fabulous, amazing portfolio of career activities that you're doing. You started out as a CPA, correct?
Yeah. It's funny.
And take us from there.
You and I have known each other for a long time, and we've never really had, I don't even know all about your history going back.
I'll have to come on your show.
I spent 9 years at KPMG in Philadelphia, and I am a CPA and still a CPA. I left KPMG. I spent about 2 years as a controller for a publicly held company doing accounting stuff. And then I decided to leave that job and join up with my dad. My dad had made the world's worst bookkeeping software. It was designed from scratch. It was in DOS, if we can remember back to those days, which I'm sure you can. He ran out of money before he could finish it. And this was right around the time when QuickBooks was taking off. And my father was one to say, well, listen, we don't have some of these capabilities, but hire Gene along with my accounting software, and therefore he'll get the worst of the work. Anyway, it was a tough guy. Because his accounting software was so bad, we started reselling CRM software. Back in the day, it was contact management software. It's now called Goldmine. If you forget Goldmine, Act, that kind of stuff. And we were using it to do all sorts of crazy things that it wasn't designed to do. The great thing happened in the year 2000. Planes did not fall out of the sky. The world did not end, but my father's software did indeed stop working in 2000, which was one of the best things ever because we were then able to fully get into the CRM softwares like Goldmine. And then we sort of took off from there. My father passed away, unfortunately, in 2005. We had offices up until then. And then like you, we shut them down and continued to grow the practice. I now have 12 people in the company, and we implement Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics and Zoho and a few other of the well-known CRM applications. So that is a lot of the work that I do on the business side.
But that is only 1/3 of the story, my friend.
That is true.
Because we also have Gene Marks, small business speaker and thought leader. And then we have Gene Marks, prolific columnist and writer. How did you start to add the speaking and the writing to running your company?
I always like to write. So what I did is I pitched a column to the Philadelphia Business Journal at the time. And, as I've realized a lot of things in life, David, like I'm sure you have as well, sometimes timing is everything. And this pitch to the editor of the Business Journal came at a time when they were actually doing a whole reboot of the Business Journal. And he thought a column on small business would be good. So he signed me up for it and I started writing about it. It was a therapeutic column called the Penny Pincher's Almanac, where I could bitch and moan about all the things that bothered me about running a small business. And I had a great time writing it. It went on for quite a while. And then that led to other things. So I got asked to write a column for Forbes and then a column for Entrepreneur.
Well, let's go back. I mean, it wasn't even the Business Journal in Philly. It was syndicated
it was nationwide,
in all 80 publications.
Yeah, it was all over the place. It was great stuff. And because of that, it got a lot of eyeballs. So then I started writing for the New York Times. It was asked me, and I started writing there every day, a column. That ended, and then I moved to the Washington Post. And for about 4 years, I was writing a column for them every day as well. Anyway, in the end, right now, as we sit and we talk, I'm writing weekly for The Guardian, for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I write an article for them every week. TheHill.com on politics, as well as Forbes, Entrepreneur, and Inc. magazine. All of the stuff that I write about is about small business, technology, startups, stuff happening around the world that affects you and affects me in running our businesses, from taxes, politics, the economy, you name it. And it's a lot of fun.
And that is your second full-time job. Your third full-time job is you are speaking and in the media. You are on TV, you're in the radio, you have this whole media empire. How did that happen?
I don't know if it's a media empire, but the writing that I did, because it was for small business owners, people started asking if I would be interested in speaking to their groups. And then, I hired people because I figured this was something that was, worthwhile. And a woman named Karen, who is my business partner, she started marketing me to a lot of business associations. So I speak about anywhere from around 50 times a year on average to different business associations. Some of the most boring associations you've ever heard of, like the National Corrugated Containers Association or National Coil Manufacturers. But they're all business owners, and they all need to pay their taxes, and they all need to learn about healthcare, and they need to understand the upcoming elections, and they need to learn what new technologies will affect them. So I do a lot of speaking because of that. And through the speaking and through the writing, I get asked sometimes to, give some viewpoints on TV, some Fox and MSNBC and whatever. So I'll go on there and do some segments there, and it helps. I like going on TV because it helps to sell more speaking gigs. It's a really big thing. So it all kind of dovetails in.
Yeah, no, sure. I've got a million questions. I'm sure our listeners have a million questions, which is why I have a million questions. The PR, the TV, the exposure, not when you're writing your columns, but when you're being interviewed and people seek out your expertise. Do you use a publicity firm? Do you do this yourself? Do you just let it come in organically? What's the secret?
So originally, I have, this Karen, my business partner, hands all marketing. So originally when I was starting out years ago, we were pitching a lot of TV stations to go on and speak. And, TV producers get lots and lots of pitches. But it's like anything else in life. You take enough swings at the ball, you're eventually going to hit one. And then if you hit one, you make sure you take advantage of the situation. So again, I've been doing this, more than 10 years, like 13 years now. So we made enough connections with TV producers that I was able to go on and do a fairly good job for the segments. And then we kept on them. So once they got into our database, we continued to pitch. I mean, this week is a perfect example. There's a Democratic primary debate going on this week. So, I have now a list of about 15 TV producers that I personally know that we've gotten to know over the years. And, earlier this week, I, emailed them and said, hey, would you like to do a segment the day after? And, how are they impacting small businesses? And got absolutely zero response to that pitch, right? Because nobody seems to care about small business right now. But there are plenty of times where I will send out to those people and say, would you like to talk about this topic? And they'll say yes. And then there are plenty of times where they'll come back to me. I'll get an unsolicited email from them saying, hey, Gene, we're doing this and would you like to come on and talk with us? So I try never to say no to a TV gig unless it is really, really super inconvenient. And I've learned a lot about going on TV, the value of it. One thing I can tell you for all your viewers, when you go on TV, no one's really going to see you. I go on during the day or going on weekends, early in the morning. I am not on Bill O'Reilly's show or Rachel Maddow. It's not like I'm on prime time doing that. The value of it is I record every appearance and then it immediately goes on my website. And then Karen, again, then starts getting out and telling the world, particularly people that we're talking to for potentially speaking, hey, Gene's going to be on Fox News, or oh, you missed Gene on Fox News, check him out. Here's the video. And people like that. It's all marketing. And people that want to hire you for speaking have put a big value on TV.
Yes, they do.
Do you know what the number one question is that I always get asked? The number one question is, what is Megyn Kelly like? That's the number one question. I'd be asked this for like 85-year-old men would come up to me back in the, when she was on Fox. Oh, you're on Fox. What's Megyn Kelly? I'm like, I don't know. I never met this woman before. I'm sure she's very nice.
Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know. Let me go back to what you said about speaking gigs, because one of the areas that you have really mastered, and I don't know what the ratio is now, but you've really mastered fee-waived speaking, quote unquote, free speaking.
Right. And
you never waste a quote unquote free speaking opportunity. Is it 50-50? Is it 80-20? Kind of what's because you have a very healthy speaking business, but you also use speaking as a lead generator to get consulting, to get clients. You do it better than most people I've ever met.
I started out and it's changed a lot. Right now, as we speak, it's 0 to 100. I don't do any unpaid speaking at this point. A lot of times people invite me to speak and they'll pay for my travel to go and speak. And I don't have the time to do that. And you know what happens is that after you learn and people start paying you to speak, your mojo goes up a little bit more. And you're like, you know what? If this guy over there was willing to pay me to speak, then, why are you not paying, that kind of thing. So, but it didn't start out that way. And when I first started, I'm sure you were the same way, I spoke a lot for free, a lot locally. I used Rotary clubs as my training grounds. I mean, that was my academy. And I probably did about 20 or 30 presentations to Rotary clubs, anywhere from Boston all the way down to DC. because they often have free speakers. And I would test a lot of things out and make a lot of mistakes and whatever. And then slowly but surely tried to build up free, paid speaking gigs. I think the other thing is that when I say that I'm busy, it's just to set expectations. I mean, my average fee for speaking, honestly, David, is anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000. So it's on average between 5 and 7, that I get paid to speak plus expenses. It's not, that much. I mean, I ain't pulling, you know what I mean? Like I ain't like, Hillary Clinton here. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think to myself, like, particularly because the business that I run, it's virtual and it's a tech company. I don't know, man. Like I could disappear for like a day and fly to Orlando and speak, and somebody wants to give me a check for $4,000 or $5,000, and then I'm home, that night or the next morning. I'm like, hey, that's cool with me, and that has opened up a lot of doors with a lot of places, particularly these business associations that don't have big budgets.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. It's funny because a lot of people listening that say, well, Gene sounds like a really smart guy. He's got this 12-person CRM consulting firm. He must talk all about CRM. Mm-hmm. And the brilliance is you never only talk about CRM.
Right.
Talk about such a broad spectrum of topics. Now, I will give you credit because you always kind of weave in a little mention or a little tiny corner gets peeked in. Oh, by the way, if you automate this with your CRM system, which of course most smart business owners would do, and they go, oh, but you're not a CRM speaker.
No, I mean, on occasion I've been asked to speak about CRM topics, but that's really few and far between. I speak about issues that affect business owners because it's all the stuff that I write about. So if I'm writing a piece for The Hill on, Trump's new health proposals or tax reform, or if I'm writing a piece on Forbes about some new technology that I think is going to impact a lot of businesses, all of that is fodder for my speaking. And what I do when I get up to speak is, I'm like, listen, like, for example, David, like the elections are coming on this year. And I write a lot about the different candidates. And I try to be very nonpartisan, believe it or not, even though I'm on Fox News. My whole thing is I'm speaking to business owners like myself. There's an election coming up. The smartest business owners I've ever met, they don't let politics take over their lives. They make decisions based on what's best for their business. So my presentations like coming up this year will be, here are the major issues, here are the candidates, both local, I'll do some research as well as national, and say, this candidate supports this candidate supports on healthcare, on taxes, on immigration, on trade, stuff that impacts this industry or, the people in my audience. And I'm not saying like you should vote for this person or that person. It's, and then I try to weave in tips, in addition, like, some tax tips. I am a CPA, some tech tips and some tips on people, employees, labor, things like that.
Does your company or do you have some expectation of ancillary benefit to the CRM business, even though you're not speaking about CRM topics? Is it kind of like a counterintuitive thing? Like, I'm not talking about it, but people see it in my bio. People see it in my, on my website. They see it everywhere. Are you becoming a predominant CRM consulting company because of your thought leadership in the small business realm?
Not from the speaking, because the speaking that I do is, if I mention CRM, it's part of some of the technologies that I recommend, but I don't mention that I sell CRM, that I have anything to do with. I just present myself as a writer and a business owner of a technology consulting firm, and that's it. And the reason why I don't do that is because if an association is hiring me and paying me to speak to their group so I can offer them some thoughts on what's going on in Washington and some thought, I think the last thing they want is for me to be sitting there and pushing products that I sell. I think that would cross the line. So I don't do that. Having said that, though, it's in my bio, and if people put 2 and 2 together and figure it out, that sounds great to me. And sometimes that does happen. What I have done is, because I write on a variety of stuff, in Forbes, I write a biweekly column on CRM. And in Inc., I write a weekly column on technology, which involves sometimes overlaps in the CRM stuff. So I can leverage some of that for my marketing. Like, oh, here's an article that I just wrote. I thought you might be interested in it.
I want to also ask you, for the folks listening, if they really have their act together, and I think you have to have your act together to do this strategy, but they want to approach Forbes, they want to approach the Business Journal, they want to approach Inc., Entrepreneur, etc. when they're ready, meaning when their thought leadership is mature enough and they have a little bit of a platform going.
Glad you said that. Go ahead.
What's the best way for them to get in the door?
So you can find out the editors in all these places quite easily. I mean, Googling them, reaching out to them on LinkedIn, all of that is there. I'll share with you right now, like I want to write for the banking industry. I have some plans of expanding my practice, with the banking industry. So just as we spoke today, I mean, just this morning, I don't write for the banking industry, but I went and I found like the 5 most sort of read industry trades in the banking industry. I got names of the editors, Googled them. I don't know them from nothing. And I just pitched them from an email, and it's not like anybody's going to bang down my door, but it's part of a plan that I have for expanding my speaking practice. And I want to get a foothold and right there. So I'm reaching out to them on LinkedIn. I'm reaching out to them by email. I'm reaching out to them on Twitter, short and sweet. Hey, I've got an interesting thing. Thought you might be interested in it. A content idea. Do you have a couple of minutes to talk by phone? And maybe it's old school and maybe it's my age, but I don't know, man. I close more deals when I talk to the people, face to face or on the phone rather than just by email. I want to get somebody on the phone and say, hey, I'm thinking I would love to write for you, this, that, and the other thing. If you're reaching out for places like Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, know this. Number one is they're always looking for good content. I mean, these people are super competitive. They're always looking for good content. They're looking for people that can write. They're looking for people that can write regularly. They're looking for people that's not just going to write one column and then and hear from them again in 6 months. And they want somebody that's independent. They all have roles. It's not about your company. It's about your thought leadership, like you said, about an area. So they don't want people who are going to be selling their products on their platform either. And like you just said, the only way they can tell it is if you have a history. So one way to get a history is to either have your own blog or maybe write for some small industry trade for free. Just like I spoke for a few years for free. You got to give away and get your chops that way. And then you can go to that editor at Inc. and say, here's the niche that I'd like to write about. And here's some links to my history. You can see I've been doing this for the past 2 years every day. I've got a lot of thoughts I'd like to share with you. Check out my writing, whatever. Would you be interested in talking? I would love to try. That approach will work.
You mentioned something about writing for free. The current gigs that you have, some of them are contributors for free or some they're paid? They're all paid?
Nope, the opposite. I don't get paid for a single place that I write. Actually, Inc. pays like a nominal amount of money, David. Like it's not even worth, whatever. The Philadelphia Inquirer, I'm still waiting for them to pay me. They promised they would, and they haven't, baby. David, I'm going to repeat this. The Guardian, The Hill, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Entrepreneur, and Inc., right? Every week, I get up at 5 a.m. and I write, and none of these places pay me, which is just, The Guardian is twice a week even. There's 2 reasons why I really love to write. Some days I'll write something, and I'll be like, man, I don't know if anybody's going to read this, but that was damn good. I am a freaking genius. That was awesome. So that makes you feel good. And then number 2 is that getting the content out there really helps for me to get speaking gigs and also for clients. It really helps. And what it does help is it's a conversation starter. Trying to reach out to a prospect. When you reach out to somebody with some information and education, that goes a long way. And if it's something that you actually wrote for Inc. or whatever, that really helps as well. One other thing I have to say, because I've been writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer, they actually want some reporting, and journalism is heading that way, where the major newspapers and publications, they want some feet on the ground reporting, which is why I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago to give me some quotes on marketing. They wanted to hear local experts get me quotes or whatever. So they want some feet on the ground. You're going to be willing to kind of do that stuff, which, is it's sort of an investment that you have to make.
Absolutely. I remember once you and I were talking, or it may have even been like an NSA related event. And you said very clearly, and I know that now on your Marks Group website, you've got a blog, but for years you didn't have a blog. And you said, listen, I write 5 times a week.
Yeah.
And those audiences are 1,000 times bigger than my audience. Why the heck do I need a blog?
Right.
You're using borrowed platforms and borrowed credibility that are 1,000 times bigger than you and me. And I always thought that was brilliant because people say, oh, I have to write my blog. I have to do my stuff. It's like, if you get some of these major media columns, why in the world would you waste your time talking to an audience that is 1/1000th of that size?
There's really pros and cons to the 2 different models, okay? If you have your own blog, you're completely in control of your fate. And if you are able to grow an audience yourself, your own blog, then you can attract potential sponsorship money, corporate partnerships. You can really generate a potential revenue stream from that, which is why it's no different than a lot of the YouTube influencers out there and Instagram. They draw their own audiences and communities, but that is hard to do, and it can be expensive to do as well. If you write for an existing platform, let's take entrepreneur.com, for example, they have their platform, their audience built in. They own all of your content, but then you've got sort of a wider audience that reads your stuff. The downside of that is you're dealing with an editor as well, or in the journalism industry, a revolving door of editors. Although my editor at Entrepreneur, I've been working for him for a few years and he's awesome. But then number two is that you're subject to what their requirements are, and you're writing and they're getting all the benefit. They're selling to sponsors and getting revenue in. You're not seeing a dime of that. And then finally, they all change because they're a mess. Okay. Like the New York Times, I'm writing, and then I got in the middle of December saying we've decided to shut down this blog at the end of the year because we're having a reorganization. And then I went to the Washington Post, and for 4 years I'm writing for there. Same thing. The editor calls me up. We're getting rid of all outside contributors because we're the Washington Post and we want internal reporters. It's constant flux. Whereas if you do your own thing, you're in control of that. I can't tell you how many editors and organizations I've worked with over the past 15 years even. You have to be prepared for that if you go down that road.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And is right.
Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. What we didn't mention is you've got, 5-6 books out there now?
Yeah, so I've written 6 books. And, the sales of the books, not that great. I mean, they're okay. I mean, I'm not retiring off of sales from the books.
Right.
The last 3 I self-published. Did you do the same thing? You self-publish?
I did not. Well, ever since you were kind enough to connect me with Mike,
you work with Mike. That's right.
The Amicom book in 2013, and then now in 2020, the Do It Speaking book is coming out, and that is HarperCollins.
Good, because I can't say enough great things about Mike Snell, but I've been doing this stuff on my own. I view books as just sort of a marketing, type of thing. And my latest, what I did now, and we'll see how this turns out, is I wrote last summer, I put together this whole book where we interviewed about 150 business owners that survived the last recession. By the way, this was probably like a $15,000 project for me. I paid a researcher to help me. And how did you survive the last recession and what lessons were learned? So that when the next recession comes, I've got this book that I'm ready to pull right out and say, hey, we've got a recession coming. And instead of trying to sell it just to the mass public, what I'm going to try to do is sell it directly to companies. So I want to go to Microsoft or the Hartford or some large organization who has thousands of small business customers and say, you know what, why don't you buy this book from me? And then you can send it to all of your customers as a service that you're doing for them, as content about how they can survive this up and coming recession that's happening right now, and brand it any way you want. So we'll see where that goes. Like I've written this book and I'm just sitting on it right now, waiting for the next recession, if you can believe that.
Oh, it's coming. I mean, it's coming, right?
At some point it's going to come. And when it is, I'm going to be ready.
Folks say that 2020 or 2021, the tsunami is on the horizon.
They don't know, David. No one knows, right? Didn't we learn that in the last recession?
I guess so.
All these MBAs on Wall Street and Stanford, nobody knows. Nobody knows when the recession is going to come. Sometime it's going to come.
So I feel better now because these other people, they're certain. Oh, it's going to be 2020. Gene, it's 2020. We're all going down.
Yeah. It does. No one has any idea.
Excellent. So there's some optimistic news right there. Let's talk about sponsorship. You mentioned just now about this brilliant idea about sponsored books.
Right.
Have you done much sponsored speaking or spokesperson kind of work on behalf of either companies that want to sell to small business or on behalf of the small business community that wants advocacy or something else?
I have, and it's changed a lot over the years. Corporations have gotten smarter about sponsorships, and so have I. So for starters, sometimes corporations walk in and say, hey, we're going to pay you a certain amount of money and we'd like you to write about us in the Washington Post. That's just never going to happen. And you can't ever write about a client. If you write, you can for your own blog, fine, if you've got readers, but if you're writing somewhere else, they will fire you in a minute because there is an absolute wall against doing that. Sometimes companies don't understand that, or they try to play a little trickery, because that's in the end, that's what they want. They want your audience. That's what it's turned into. So, The blogs that people write and the content they provide at this point, it's so SEO, search engine optimization driven, that they could really have a monkey do it as long as they put the right keywords into their blogs, because it's all content so that Google notices them and then it drives, visitors to their site. So it's the actual quality of the content, believe it or not. And then the other thing is I've learned this has just changed a lot over the years. If people want me to write for them, they're not going to let me be me, because God forbid if I have an opinion or a viewpoint or something controversial, they want like a lot of viewers of the blog. But the only way in 2019 you can get a lot of viewers is if you write something that's attention. And if you're going to write that, half of the viewers aren't going to be happy about what you wrote. Right. And then no company wants to deal with that. So it really has vanilla-ized, all of the content that's out there. Finally, the companies themselves they want people to write for them that provides them an audience. So they don't really care if you've got 100,000 Twitter followers. They care if you've got engagement on Twitter. Same thing on Facebook, Yeah. So they would rather, if you have 1,000 followers, but you're really going back and forth with them a lot, and so whatever, that's more valuable to a company today than having a lot of followers with very little engagement on it. They've learned. And they'll ask for metrics and data and statistics to prove to them that the stuff that you have written is driving viewers to their site, or at least driving people online to talk about it. So it's become way more data-driven when you work for companies. And I think people just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other, as we're wrapping up here, and this has been so fabulous, there are some things that you do and that you experiment with, and then there's some things that you really have mastered, and there's some things that you don't touch with a 10-foot pole. So when someone says to you, for example, hey, Gene, you should really do a podcast, or you should really do X, how do you evaluate, well, should I do a podcast? And then on the other hand, of course, I think you start hosting these meetups, right? And so in-person meetups, people go, oh, no one goes to in-person meetups. And meanwhile, you're crushing it with the in-person meetups. How do you carve your own path while evaluating solid opportunities without wasting a bunch of time?
I think it's just two things. You really enjoy doing it, and can you make money of it? Is it going to be worth your while? Are you going to come home and is your spouse going to yell at you because you spent all day doing a podcast and there's no money in the bank? Do you know what I mean? Having said that, do you really enjoy doing that podcast? And if that's the case, then that's something that you want to do. I would love to do like a podcast, for example, but it's so expensive, not just to make, there's time involved. But as you know, David, I mean, it's very busy out there. So for people to see it all, takes a lot of marketing muscle and a lot of commitment. And, I would want some dollars to be behind me to do that. I'm up for pretty much anything as long as I would have a good time doing it and I can make some money doing it. It's worth it financially.
Tell us about the meetup strategy. How did you start that and how's that paying off?
Well, the meetups I just do for my firm. And all I do with the meetups is that every month, we have a meetup for a different product that we sell. The whole meetup cost me a few $100 plus the time of some of my people to go and host it. And it's just designed for people to come and get trained and talk about the product. So like we sell Microsoft Dynamics. So we have a Microsoft Dynamics meetup and people come and we get anywhere from 15 to 50 people that come to it. And I actually provide food as well. Like I said, it's a few $100 and it's just purely a marketing thing. My existing clients, we get a lot of people that keep coming back. So it gets us a good opportunity to stay with them and have a good relationship with them. And then it attracts some new faces as well.
And they pay a little bit of money, correct?
It depends. Up until this year, it's been completely free. The first time ever, we're doing a CRM summit in July. And for the first time, I'm charging for it. You know what I mean? Not that much, like $99 or whatever to come for a morning of whatever. And I'm curious to see if we get signups for it. But before that, it was free. It was on my dime because it's a marketing expense. Different people.
Right.
Spend their marketing money in different ways. That's how.
And then the regular meetups, not the summit, but you hold those at like a Panera or in a hotel or where?
In a hotel. So we have Spring Hill Suites in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania is where we do it. And we use the same hotel each time. And the people, they know what to do. And you pick a central location and they provide bagels and coffee. Like I said, I get a bill for like $350 for doing it, which is, I just think it's peanuts. And we do it once a month. And the other thing that it does though, David, is that I don't really care how many people show up to the meetups. It's an opportunity to reach out to our community. So it's something to talk about. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, hey, how you doing? You just say, hey, we're doing this meetup next week. You might want to come. It's a reason to talk.
Now with the meetups, and I guess with any sort of self-hosted event, how do you make sure that actual decision makers show up versus people who are merely interested but can't write you a check?
We don't. As long as they enjoy bagels, they can come.
It's an open tent.
It is pretty much. I mean, we suggest in the meetups, this is designed for business owners, sales managers, and marketing managers, but I can't control who they bring along and whatever. I also think, David, you don't underestimate the power of influencers. Okay, the business owner might not come, but somebody, the HR person or somebody might come to one of our meetups, and then that's the person that goes to the business owner and says, we ought to consider doing this thing. So I think influencers are really important. And so that's why I wouldn't turn anybody away.
And beyond your email list and beyond meetup.com, do you proactively, personally invite people to come?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I mean, we use a CRM system. So, just every day I'm slogging through follow-ups with different people. And you're the same way. You come across people that you're like, I don't know, I'm scheduled to follow up with this guy. I have nothing to say to this guy. I want him to buy my product, but I don't want to say that in my... So, I want something to talk about. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Oh, you know what? We're doing this summit next week. Thought you might be interested in coming. You know what I mean? Just some little touch of this. Then 4 months later, I push them ahead 4 months and we'll touch them again. The idea there is hopefully you do that enough times when somebody actually says, it's time for me to get a CRM system or to change. They're like, I've been hearing from Gene for God knows how long. Maybe I'll reach out to him.
Planting seeds, buddy. Planting seeds.
Planting seeds.
That's where it's at. Well, I'm going to ask you 2 final questions. The final question is, how do people get connected and stay connected to you? But even before that, second to last question, if folks were to take one overarching concept or key idea from our conversation today about all these great things that you've shared, what aspect would you hope that they would remember?
There's a lot of different ways in this world to make money. You want to balance, and your time is limited. So you want to do stuff that's going to make you money. As a business person, I don't care if you're a freelancer or a speaker or whatever, if you're in business to make money. You might not enjoy it all the time, but that should be the thing. You want to balance that also with having some passion for what you do and enjoying it. Like I said, I get up and I write every day. Sometimes I don't have anything to write about. Sometimes I want to feel like writing, whatever, but you do it because it's, you treat it like a job. So, pick something that you enjoy, but pick something that it's not going to waste your time, that you think if you can make a living doing it. And I think that's a good model that you can follow.
Brilliant advice. How do people get more Gene Marks? Where do we go?
Twitter's probably the best place, at Gene Marks, GeneMarks.
And of course, the entire empire springs forth from there.
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. So you'll tweet about your articles and your columns as they come out.
Yeah, I'm going to tweet about this podcast when it comes out.
Tweet about this podcast. Sure. That's fantastic.
But yeah, my Twitter feed, it's designed to provide news and information for small business owners and people that work in small businesses. That's the main focus of my Twitter feed, and to engage about that. And, if some of that news and information happens to come from my writings, what can I say? It's, if it's valuable, it's valuable.
So be it, my friends. So be it. All right. Thank you for being on. This was totally awesome, totally fantastic. And we have to have you back on.
Yeah, I'd love to come on back sometime. You do a great job asking questions. This is really fun. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.